The outcome for today's lesson is how transport on the Thames has changed from the days of when the London Nautical School was formed to today. London Nautical School was formed in 1915 as a result of the Titanic disaster of 1912. This was taken from a film at the early days of the London Nautical School, and it shows how busy it is loading and unloading the ships and how the cargoes weren't containerised. Here's a car, you just wouldn't get this today, a car being loaded into the inside or hold of a ship, and each individual cargo lifted out on the strops. So here's a view about 70 years ago of looking at the Thames between London Bridge and Tower Bridge, which is called the Pool of London. The next shot is students at the London Nautical School. See how the uniforms changed. And even the river then, we had ships unloading into lighters. The vessels there are lighters. They're called lighters because they make the ships lighter. Originally, most of the cargo was unloaded in the Pool of London, which is between London Bridge and Tower Bridge, and then it was taken by lighters. Let's say they're called lighters because they lighten the load of the ship to be discharged at the wharfs. A lot of these lighters didn't have any engines. They're called dumb lighters, and they were rowed by a person with oars. As you can see here, this is the stretch of water just down the river from the school. You can see the tugs and the steam tugs and the ships, and there's a lot of activity going on in the river. And next week we're going to look at what we see here and what we see in reality out there. These next vessels are Thames sailing barges, which are unique to the Thames. They had flat bottoms and they were easy to sail with two people, a man, a boy and a dog, and we'll talk about those later. Further down the river we had the docklands. These were built to unload the ships because there was a lot of stealing going on, so they had high sides to the docks to stop people coming in to steal, and they'd unload in the docks. We just got a tug and lighters there in the foreground. We've got the Thames barge. Because a lot of the cargo was sailed up on Thames barges, or it was rowed on the Thames on the lighters that we talked about earlier, it was important to work with the tide. So when the tide came in, all the vessels went upriver, and tide went out, the vessels went downriver. Here a chap talks about his own experiences about working with the tides.
Before the war, everything was geared to working up on the flood, working down on the ebb, mainly because we took advantage of every knot we could out of the current of this river. The craft would leave Tilbury behind their boat. They're all bound from various wharves in London, coming up along, one behind the other. The large ships with the tugging attendants, the small coasters going to various berths like Hermitage, Carron Line, up through to Irongate Wharf, General Steam, Med boats, a whole procession, very similar to the Lord Mayor's procession today, all with a common aim in view of getting up, getting tied up and getting done as soon as possible. This went on right to near enough the high water when they reached their destination. Then you would have a sort of a lapse, a lull. You could feel it, sense it, and you knew it was there. And as the high water came, everything started moving down along, back down towards the sea, everything geared to the whole force of this river.
This was, without any doubt, one of the busiest rivers in the world. But it was fascinating, you know, there was always something happening.
As the barge master said, this was one of the busiest rivers in the world. So when the school was formed, there was lots of cargo, there was passenger, there was ships coming in, the Port of London, the London docks. They were all really busy, and they were unloading the vessels using cranes and hoists. So they were unloading stuff individually, not in containers, and we'll talk about containers next week. So there was a lot of work. Outside the docks, there was a lot of stealing. That's why the docks were built within high walls. It was so busy in the Thames, and there was so much going on. Completely different place than it is today. So if you could answer the questions, that would be great, and we'll compare and contrast with what it was like then as to what it is like today. Okay, thanks very much.